Every manipulative person shares the same blueprint. They don't break you by force. They break you by slowly disconnecting you from yourself. And the most dangerous part is that they do it in ways that they feel subtle, familiar, even normal, until you realize you're being slowly trained to doubt your own thinking. Let me show you the behaviors that reveal someone is manipulating you, because once you see the pattern, that it definitely lose the power instantly. And the first thing you will notice with a manipulative person is how quickly they make you doubt your own memory, not because your memory is bad, but because confusion, it always benefits a manipulative person. So they will do something, they will say something, they will promise something, and then you bringing it later. Then you look straight in the eye and say, never happened, or I never said that, or you imagining things, or the classic, you always twist everything. Here's the dangerous part. They say it with certainty because they believe of what they said. Manipulators don't argue with facts. Never. They argue with your confidence in your own mind. It's really twisted, isn't it? And once they weaken that confidence, you start reshaking absolutely everything. It's really subtle. Last year, I met someone for a few months, and I found out only with a friend, because every time I was questioning myself, I'm like, I think I'm losing my mind because he said that and I don't remember this happening. And this friend said to me, is this person a narcissistic person or a big manipulator, which actually is part of the narcissism? And then I started doing more research, and then I realized I was not losing my mind, but I was definitely confused, because he looked straight in my eyes. He said, no, that's happened. You said this, you react this way. And I'm like, I don't remember, and I don't think I have the bad memory. I had bad eyes, but not a bad memory. This is how they play with your mind and with your confidence. And it's such a slow process, so you have to be very careful, and I'm hoping this video is going to help you to see those patterns and avoid it. It's, for example, when you apologize for things that you didn't do at all, or you start asking, did I misunderstand even when you didn't? When you start questioning yourself, this is a red flag to me. A healthy person clears confusion. A manipulative person creates it. So that's how they get control over you. And I'm going to tell you as well, something else that shows up really early on, and this is so subtle, is how they use silence as punishment. They silence that healthy, and then silence that you designed to train you. The manipulative version looks like this. Let me tell you. So let's say you bring up something that bothered you, and you're gonna say silence as an answer. Or for example, you set a boundary, as a response, you're gonna get silence. Or you don't give them what they want, you're gonna get the silence treatment. And this is not peace. This is distance, totally designed to make you feel anxious, because you don't have an answer. You don't have, like communication. So because when you start panicking in your head, you would chase for explanation, you would chase like, hang on, and you chase for get the power back. A grounded person use silence to think, to communicate, to put their foot together. A manipulative person uses silence to make you feel like you did something wrong when you didn't. Another pattern that shows up in the way they suddenly don't understand anything that hold them accountable. So you could explain something clearly, calmly, even kindly, and somehow they still pretend to be confused. You're like, hang on, how can I explain to you? This is so simple. They say, what do you mean? I never got that impression. Or they will say, totally overthinking. And please note, this is not confusion. This is purely strategic ignorance. Because if they don't understand, then the burden falls back on you to explain. And again, and again, and again, until you start feeling totally exhausted until you start thinking, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I don't remember well. And once you reach that point, they already won the emotional game. You don't need to explain yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. A manipulative person doesn't just dismiss your thoughts, they also attack your emotions. And this is where it hurts actually. They take something valid, something human, something vulnerable, and it makes it sound like a character flaw. For example, if you said, when you did this, that really truly hurt my feelings, and they will answer, oh, you're so sensitive. But if you say again, but this upsetting me, and they said, oh, you're being way too emotional. So they diminished your feelings, okay? They said, maybe you said, I didn't like that when you talk like that in front of my friends. And they say, oh, you're completely overreacting. I was totally normal. So it's a pattern. You bring a feeling and they bring judgment straight away to your feelings. And before you know it, you're no longer expressing emotions, you're suppressing them because you learn that your feelings will be used against you. It's horrible, isn't it? So a healthy person or healthy partner, friend, make space for your emotions. You know, say, oh, I totally agree with you. Or a manipulative person makes your emotions the problem. Then there's the moment when you start noticing how disagreement with difficult conversation, every boundaries you try to set, somehow it ends with them being the victim. It's actually absolutely incredible how fast they can flip the script. And I've seen that and it's absolutely incredible. You bring up an issue and suddenly they hurt. I need to find an example for that. You point out a pattern. You're going to say, hey, you know, every time we go to the restaurant, we start very nicely and then suddenly you just shut down and I don't know why. You stop talking, you shut down and suddenly they feel totally attacked when you bring this type of problem that you have with them. No, I don't used to. It's because the restaurant was too loud. I don't like talking when it's too loud. You know, something that is the victim. You feel like you are too demanding for someone who's just communicating with you in a restaurant. And you know what this does. It makes you minimize yourself. So you start softening, shrinking, tiptoeing because you don't want to hurt them. And that's the whole point. Not to solve the problem, but to control the emotional tone of the relationship. A manipulator doesn't want resolution. They want immunity. You can also recognize manipulators because they have an habit of making you explain the obvious. You point out something disrespectful they did, and instead of engaging with the truth, they suddenly pretend they don't know what you're just talking about. You know, for example, if you said, I think you're being very flirty with the waitress when actually you're on a date with me. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just friendly. When he was really, really flirty, really flirty, and not just a smile. And now you explaining tone, context, intention, all the details they already understand totally perfectly. They know the game. You're doing emotional labor they should be doing just for themselves. While you're busy explaining, you are not noticing the real problem here. The real problem, they're avoiding accountability, totally. So anyone who needs a full essay to understand basic respect isn't just confused. Because manipulators, they're avoiding accountability, responsibility. And if you remember that one of the clearest signs of manipulation is chaos. Tiny conflict that makes no sense. Argument that comes out of nowhere. Emotional reaction that don't match the situation, or sudden change of energy. And somehow you end up as the one trying to fix it. Manipulators love chaos because chaos gives them control over you. Because when you're ungrounded, you're easier to influence, and when you're anxious, you are easier to manipulate. So when you don't know what version of them you will get, you start working on eggshells all the time, and this is the way they destabilize you so they can center themselves. So the moment you stop reacting to emotional instability, the power collapses. Another pattern you will see, they make the emotional reaction your responsibility. So if they're angry, it's, oh, because you make me angry. Look at that. You push me to my limits. This is what I say now. And if they shut down, it's because you push them. If they lashed out, it's because you trigger them with maybe one word or whatever. So here's the truth. You need to anchor into your mind. Adults are responsible for their own emotions. If someone constantly blames you for how they feel, they're not being honest, they're being manipulative. And because the more responsible you feel for the emotions, the less responsible they have to be for their own behavior. And you're going to take that for granted every time. It's really slow process. So your responsibility ends when the emotional maturity should begin. Manipulators love also shifting the conversation away from the real issues. I'm going to say something, no one's going to love it, but right now, let's say the president of the America, every time someone asking a question, because I'm following the Epstein's story or what happened with the new photos released, this is when I'm filming, he just answered very quickly and then he changed the focus to the conversation to another topic. So they always do that. You bring up something totally valid, and instead of addressing it, they will attack your delivery, or they're just going to twist the topic, And it's not what you said, it's how you say it. You're using maybe the wrong tone, or they said, you're being too dramatic. And suddenly the argument isn't about their behaviors, it's about your communication style. And the moment you start defending your tone, you stop holding them accountable. This is a distraction, okay? And it's a very effective one. Never, ever let someone turn your request for respect into a debate about your tone. Ever. Also, this pattern every manipulator depends on is testing how much you're willing to tolerate, how much you're going to cope with the bullshits. They don't start with the big violation. They start really like that slow process. They start with small experiment. Yes, the experiments. Tiny lie, a subtle insult who is like a sarcasm joke, a shift in tone. It can be as well a boundary they push just a little, not crazy. It will be too obvious. And if you let it slide, they will push further and further. And if you excuse it, they escalate. If you stay quiet, they take more. So manipulators don't break you in one moment. They break you through all the moments you didn't realize you needed to defend. And once you understand that, you stop negotiating your boundaries. You stop explaining your intuition. You maybe even stop justifying your discomfort because you finally see the truth. Listen, someone who loves you will never require you to abandon yourself. So be very careful by protecting your mind, protect your clarity, and protect your peace. Because manipulators only control the women who stop trusting their own voice. If you like this video, give a like and subscribe. More videos coming.